Hey there, guys. It is Rachel Feldman. Today, for day 3 of the challenge, we're going to talk about putting your list builder on your homepage. Now, throughout this challenge, we're going to talk about many different strategies that you can use to use social media, different platforms, to repurpose, to even use a blog, to host your list builder and to promote it. But today, we are diving into some examples of how coaches use their list builder on their homepage. So if you don't have a website, I do encourage one. There are lots of coaches that talk about starting your business before you have a website. Me personally, I needed to have my website. It wasn't perfect, but I needed to have somewhere that somebody could go to my website, get my contact information, and then contact me. Plus, it was nice to house, of course, my freebies and my blogs and all that stuff that was building my brand and my visibility. So let me share the screen. And if you hear my dog, she's in my office today. She's super, super pug. Okay, bear with me. One sec. Gotta get this PowerPoint up. Okay. It was moving slow this morning. So anyway, drop in the comments where you're coming from. I always love to know where people are coming from. And let's just get this going. Perfect. Okay, so I wanted to show you some examples today because we can talk about it. We can talk about where you house your freebie, but I think it's really important to see some examples. So these were 2 of my throwback time to my old list builders: 7 steps to losing weight and digestive health, and then a 3-day mini detox. I specialized and I was known as that detox and gut girl. I talked a lot about weight loss because I realized for my ideal client, that was one of their biggest worries. I attracted people with food allergies, autoimmune, digestive distress. I shared a lot of my personal story about candida, parasites, H. pylori. And so, of course, I attracted people with the same issues. But every time they would come to me, they would be worried about their belly bloat. They hated the fact that they were gaining weight because one of the side effects of having imbalance of gut flora is that bad bacteria can cause a lot of inflammation, a lot of weight gain. So I realized for my ideal client to make the connection between weight and gut, that was a pretty important thing for me to talk about. I also, of course, got people for emotional eating. That was something that I talked about a lot, the mindset of the gut persona. And I found that a lot of people who had that kind of in-depth, like deep thinking, that nervousness, anxiety, stress, a lot of like comparison syndrome. I had like a gut persona. I had that person who would come to me with a lot of gut issues. I worked with a lot of kids. I also, as I said, worked with stress eating, tried emotional eating, but it was just too much of an intense kind of business for me. And so it's something I wanted to really dive into. But I think the people that I was attracting, I attracted a lot of girls from Renfrew coming out of being in, rehab for emotional eating. I was working with doctors and their nurses, but it just was a little too overwhelming for me. So I did work with a lot of women who stress ate and would do binge eating, which is one of the reasons I wrote End Emotional Eating, because it was something that I needed for my business. It's one of the programs we have. So upgrading my old website, I went from a website that I used from IN, which was the school that I attended. I then upgraded to a basic website, and then I went in and worked with a brand specialist. You can see right here, I have my fall detox. I have essential oils. I have a freebie page, and I always have a freebie right on the front. I love a freebie page because it allows you to really showcase that 1 to 3 freebies that showcase your business. For me, as I said, it was like weight loss, detox, gut health. And of course, I had other ones, but those were the ones that I found people really identified with. As I, of course, grew my business, I found that food allergies was a major pain point for people. And so I did add that as one of my workshops and my freebies. I worked with a lot of kids that had food allergies. It was really amazing because working with kids and then working with the mom with her weight loss goals or her gut goals was really amazing. Then you'll see right here, grab my free ebooks. I had a spring detox, work with me, grab your free ebooks. And that's usually where you see the freebies on the front banner at the top. Take a look at other coaches and see where they put their freebie on their homepage. I love Lisa Consiglio. This was one of the OG people who did detox. I've interviewed her. She's amazing. She really is just such a blessing for, I feel, this world. She has about 3 different freebies, and you see she has a freebie page. She runs a yearly detox, and you'll see right here, free reboot for your body guide. Right there, reboot your body starter kit, resources, 21-day green up smoothie challenge, and a juice it up. She ran her 21-day green up smoothie challenge to open cart to her detoxes. She also ran a yearly membership for detoxes. So she's somebody that when I was thinking about putting the 4-season detox together as one of our programs, she was somebody in my head like, wow, to be able to work with successful women, which is what she really marketed to, very successful women who had put themselves last. They wanted to reboot their body. So her starter kit really feeds into her core program. And I think that's the thing that you need to think about when you're looking at your freebies. How do they relate to your signature method, your signature process, and most importantly, your signature program, which embodies those? This is Christina Fully Raw. I have followed her for years as well, about 12 years at this point. She was somebody that I found very early in business, similar to Lisa Consiglio. I always would make sure that I followed people that I really admired their marketing. I really admired how clean they would keep things. They would also switch things up. I want to say a few years ago, Christina Fully Raw had a Bikini Blast challenge. Right now, she has a 21-day Fully Raw challenge. It feeds right into her core offerings. And the reason that I say she had a bikini challenge is if you know Christina's full story, that was not, getting thin was not what her business is about. But what she realized is that certain people wanted that, and they saw that as a connection to make going fully raw and vegan as one of the core results, one of their biggest pleasures. So her pain was that she had blood sugar imbalances, she had candida, she had a bunch of other, she had some emotional eating, and she found that when she went fully raw and vegan, that all of those went away. So sharing her personal story, as we talked about the other day, when we had day 1 for Ideal Client, is very important. If we don't share those stories about us, people have a really tough time identifying. So I love that Christina switches out her freebies. And I do think that a challenge to, as I discussed yesterday when we were going over opt-in pages, I think a challenge is really great to your core offer or to our discovery session, because you have each day where you're following up with that person with emails and creating and building that trust in that relationship. You will see right here, this is one of our success coaches, Rebecca. She has a better relationship with your body guide. She is an emotional eating therapist. She has an eating personality quiz and a self-love meditation. I do believe that meditation is one of ours. But she also built her quiz because she has the 3-month Eat with Intention program. And she's also just a firecracker when it comes to marketing. If you look at her Instagram, you will see that she is just so present with her client, so in tune with her client. And this is actually what leads on her clickable on her Instagram. And you will see right here, this is not one of our coaches, nor is Lisa or Christina Fully Raw. But what I love about Nicole Jardim is she's always done an amazing job with her freebies on her website, leading to her core offers. She had a lot of low-cost offers at one time, leading to her main core programs of mentorship. And I think that she does a great job. We do have a Repair Your Period workshop. I don't know if it's exactly the same. Of course, I don't know Nicole. I just admire her and I admire her marketing. And I think when you are really smart with your website freebie, that should be your signature freebie that really closes the door for conversion. It allows for your person to get to know themselves. I think a quiz is a really great thing to use as far as a list builder. We have quizzes in some of our programs. We have quizzes in our protocols. And I think that who doesn't want to do a quiz? So I love right here, she gives a little introduction and then take the quiz. I would love to answer any questions if you guys have them. Oh, hi, Michael. Somebody saying, thanks, Rachel. Do you have any recommendations on where to begin with creating a website? Yes. I would say Wix and Squarespace are probably your easiest if you want to do a self-hosted. That means that you don't have a WordPress website and you don't need to get hosting. Hosting can, it's not terribly costly unless you start building many different websites and having membership areas. But usually that gets to be when you're having like 6 sites. I would say Wix and Squarespace are the easiest ones. If you wanted to have a WordPress site, we do have a starter kit for a WordPress site, and we have a fully loaded WordPress, 2 different variations of WordPress. But if you wanted to just, this is always my suggestion. If you want to start building one on your own, make sure that you go to Pinterest. You can go to different branding and branding for website, put branding for website or logos or colors for websites. And you will see that they bring up a lot of color swabs and like a brand board, or you can put in brand board. And you will start to see the colors that you really want. I would also go to Unsplash.com. You can look at pictures. Remember, we talked about in day 1, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's really attracting your ideal client, and pull down pictures that are the age of your avatar and your ideal client. If your avatar, as we talked about the other day, is working in an office, find a great picture of a woman working in her office. You know, if your woman is into health and fitness, find some great smoothie bowls, some green drinks, some beautiful pictures that they have there. And even if you do want a WordPress site, I love WordPress sites. I think that they have great flexibility, and the WordPress sites that we have are front builders. So they're just like Wix and Squarespace, but they're much easier to make a template of a page. They're much easier to copy a page. But if you want to go to Squarespace and Wix, you can always start a website and start to see what the pictures and the colors would look like. That would be my biggest suggestion. You, of course, have other places like Kartra, Kajabi, Entreport. I always say when you're looking for the website, think about your goals. If you want to have a blog, or you want to have, if you want to have a blog, WordPress is usually the best one to have it. But there are a lot of people that are not depending on blogs these days, because we have so much interaction on social media between Facebook and Instagram and TikTok that not everyone is reading blogs. I would say spend more time trying to get published in like Thrive Journal, Mind Body Green. They love recipes. So for you guys who do a lot of recipes, I had a bunch that were like 5 different protein balls. I would say spend time there. It's not that I don't love blogs. Tomorrow, we're actually showing how you can house a blog, talk about the information, and have your list builder as the call to action. But those would be my biggest suggestions for for looking for a website. As mentioned, Kartra, Entreport, Kajabi have email marketing systems within them. So when you're looking at pricing out your business, really reverse engineer into all those different fees. Sometimes we end up spending a lot on an email marketing system when it would have been maybe more advantageous to go with Kartra. But then if you ever leave Kartra, you're really leaving your whole entire website. So that's the only problem about like an Entreport, Kartra, or Kajabi. So really think about the biggest goals. Again, the free ones, you will have to pay a little of an upgrade to get their promotional kind of logo, Wix or Squarespace removed, but it's not a huge fee. Awesome. Glad that was helpful. Tomorrow, as I said, we're going to be going over a blog. Many of you have blogs from us. Many of you have blogs that you've been given. If you haven't bought them from us or you haven't bought a program where there have been free gifts. So look at your vault. I always say the programs that you have, the blogs. If you're in our Content in a Box membership, you have tons of blogs. And think about what blog would go hand in hand with your freebie. I've seen a lot of amazing action from the time that we released this freebie to where people have been really infusing their own message, adding in key information for their niche, and really thinking about those follow-up emails. Make sure that you go and personalize those follow-up emails, get your testimonials, so that you can put that in. I think it's email 2 that has a testimonial. Somebody's saying, do I have any thoughts on Practice Better? I love Practice Better. We have a lot of coaches who use WordPress websites or Wix or Squarespace or any different website and use Practice Better. I think that it's a very simple and easy way for coaches where technology is not the easiest. I think that it's also wonderful to do evergreen programs in there. We have Shay Johnson, who is one of my administrators, who teaches about Practice Better, and she runs a membership in Practice Better. I don't think we need a lot of fancy platforms. So when it comes to your website, if it was me, I would probably do Practice Better as my delivery for one-on-one clients, groups, self-paced programs. You can even do a quiz on Practice Better. I think it's a really great platform because I do think that Kajabi is a little easier than Kartra. I haven't ever played personally in Entreport, and I haven't had a client in Entreport. I did have a client for a very small time in Entreport, but we left because it was hard to make a template for a newsletter. And so we kept factoring in time that it would take for a template and newsletter compared to where she is in Kajabi. I think she has Kajabi and Infusionsoft. So I would say that if you're starting out now, it's a no-brainer. I wouldn't say, and this is just me seeing it from above, but I think there is a way to list build in Practice Better, but it's not a list building machine. It's not an email marketing system. So that person has to sign up and go through a different process. I think it would be much easier for your program download area to be in Practice Better, or for sending that to one-on-one clients, or delivering an evergreen program, or a program that's live. And then to have an email marketing system such as MailerLite, which you do need a website. They make it a little tighter rules to have a website. So if you're looking at MailerLite, but then you can do all your opt-in pages. If you're looking at MailChimp, same thing. ConvertKit, the same thing. People love Flowdesk. I think Flowdesk, from what I hear, is very visual. But I think that there are some other email marketing systems that will help you as you grow. ConvertKit is one of those that I know people don't look at a lot. And of course, there's ActiveCampaign that's kind of at a higher tier level of money. Somebody say, I'm trying to define my niche. It deals with women's nutrition with a heavy focus on prenatal and postpartum. Oh, I love that. Nutrition, but also nutrition for families and understand in underserved communities. It's been a little hard to push that out as a coach. I'm also a doula. Aw. I had a doula suggestions on how to incorporate. So I think if this were me, and here's my biggest suggestion, is that I would really focus first on the prenatal and postpartum nutrition. I think showcasing that you're a doula is such a big marketing point. So I would call yourself like the doula for prenatal and postpartum. You could even say, we have a postpartum program. We have also a pregnancy program. So maybe you want to really focus on that prenatal, pregnancy, and postpartum and talk about this time in a woman's life that can be really scary, really overwhelming. There's so many questions. If it wasn't for my doula during that time, I don't know what I would have personally done. And I think that also postpartum, when you're going through that time, it can be extremely overwhelming, and feel like you're alone and you have this baby and you're going through so many hormonal changes. So if it were me, I would really focus on that area first. I think nutrition for families in underserved communities, what I did is I had a bunch of presentations and I went into schools. I went into areas that were underserved, but I found that it was best to go into like preschools where they had a little more control. I wasn't needing to pitch to a board. And I would see if you could do workshops for nutrition for kids so that you're giving that little packet to a kid. What I did is I went to a farm, I collaborated with a local farm, and I brought in all these different vegetables. The farm actually donated that to the class, and I promoted that farm. So I would do something like that. I think a pregnancy coach and a postpartum coach, and if you talked about even prenatal, pregnancy, postpartum, that's such a beautiful transition in a woman's life. I think I would look at which one is the biggest pain point. Is it the prenatal? Is it the pregnancy? Or is it the postpartum? And maybe just focusing on like the pregnancy part. I know in our program that we have a big area on getting ready for pregnancy, and then nursing. So if you can tell me a little more about what you feel that has been hard to push, because I know that there are a ton of fertility coaches, but I think to have a coach that you work with for nutrition during pregnancy. I worked with a lot of pregnant moms for nutrition during pregnancy who had a lot of food allergies. So you might think of what is the biggest pain point for a woman during that time and how to really position yourself as the coach so you are the go-to woman. If anyone has any questions about niche, I do encourage you to come into our free group, introduce yourself, put a picture, say, this is my niche, this is where I'm struggling. What would you think is the biggest marketing point for your niche? And we can definitely help you. I hope that was helpful. I would do a poll. This is the last if you are struggling. Maybe not with your niche, but figuring out like why she buys. I think that's the biggest thing that you heard me talk about today when I was talking about weight loss. I realized like she bought because of the weight loss. She bought or he bought because of the food allergies. I had a lot of guys who had psoriasis. It's something that is near and dear to my heart because my husband has psoriasis. So I know the pain for that. That is a major pain point. It's a major pain point when people have issues that are affecting their physical appearance. I'm not saying that that is vain. I think we have to be honest about human beings and what kind of affects us. We can have very emotional and spiritual pain points or fears, but I would write down all of the fears that a woman has when she's about to get pregnant, during pregnancy, postpartum. Then make a list of questions and this is for anyone, make a list of questions to ask some women, past clients that you've had, even do polls, go into different groups and ask questions, do market research. on even going to Amazon, seeing what books are the most prevalent in your area of expertise, and then starting to define what you want to be known as. This amazing woman is saying, I'm finding that most women don't know what they should be eating for optimal health and how to maintain a lifestyle after pregnancy. You might find, and I think one, you just nailed it on, women have a tough time knowing what to eat for optimal health, knowing how much to eat. Aviva Joram was a book my doula gave me, and I'm so fortunate for her because that really helped me to figure out what I needed to eat, how I needed to take care of myself. So when I think of somebody taking you through a transformation, I think, how can that person be of service with resources? I think that you might also find that postpartum is a really difficult time for women. And I think that is a really big pain point as well. So I would look at making questions around that. You know, would a woman want to have a coach during this time in her life? What would that coaching look like? For her, what would she ideally want? What are the biggest problems and things that she's scared about? And then put together a signature freebie, workshop, and your signature offer. Somebody's saying, why would a truck driver buy from me? She specializes with truck drivers. Truckers struggle the most with high blood pressure, high blood sugar, overweight, called metabolic syndrome. They're on the road 16 hours a day, eat shitty, and very little exercise, and cannot follow a rigid diet. So this is very niche down. I think the biggest trouble with truck drivers, and I don't know truck drivers personally, but I think when we have time constraints, if we think about like a corporate woman that has no time, she's got kids, she's pulled in every direction, she's working an 8-ish to 6-ish job, which is really a 9 to 5, but everyone always stays over. I think the biggest thing to think about, why would this truck driver buy from you, is that pain enough for that person to actually make a change? And you might find, and the word just rigid stuck out at me, you might find that you need to create a less rigid eating schedule for this person, because sometimes making those changes to a rigid type of eating can feel extremely overwhelming. If it were me, I would put together like the truck driver's diet, and I would have things that were easy, quick, and go, grab and go, kind of healthy protein bars. I know we don't always love to put our clients on protein bars. We want them to chop everything fresh. But sometimes that's not a person's realistic life. I can't tell you how many people I converted from a really crappy sad American diet, even though they thought they were healthy, to protein bars that didn't have a lot of ingredients, protein powders, things on the go, because that was just their life. I worked with a lot of corporate who did traveling and trying to find healthy diets. I would say that rigid wouldn't be under the words that I would use. And it's not to say that you aren't doing everything right, but I would say that if you write down the pain points and then you write down the objections, this is the biggest one. Write down the objections of why that person isn't going to hire you. You'll find that you'll be able to come up with a lot of results of, this is why I've created this program this way. This is how easy it's going to be to transition from eating crappy foods and takeout to this kind of eating. But you got to come up with a major game plan, because driving 16 hours a day is like telling a top executive to, go home and cook and prep for an hour and make like this extensive meal. It's just not doable. So I would really think of the truck drivers, grab and go, or no cook kind of foods, like things that can make it really simple, things that almost a really busy mom would need to have in her arsenal. And one of the reasons that people don't buy is that we always say we don't have time. So when you're thinking about speaking to your ideal client, pain, pleasure, objections. We talked about this in day 1 on the ideal client. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch that PowerPoint, because this is when we really need to know our avatar and know what is actually doable for them. So guys, to kind of recap, I love the questions. This is my favorite kind of live when we do a Q&A. I would say also go back to thinking about your main website. Think about the freebie there. Is it a high converting freebie? Is it really showcasing your ideal client your method, your strategy, the mini solution to go to that next step? So if you have any questions about your freebie, like I said, come into our free group, take a picture of the front of your website, tag me, drop your Instagram handle there and say, or your Facebook page and say, can you take a look at this? This is who I want to serve. Do you think this is a high converting freebie? Sometimes we just need to talk it out. Sometimes we're just in such overwhelm of running our business that we get caught up and maybe we're actually missing the boat. So if this was helpful, drop a 1. You can hear my little doggy. Where is she? She's somewhere. I can hear her. So she's telling me, Mom, wrap it up. All right, guys, it's been a great pleasure to be with you. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you a blog with a call to action to the list builder. Go into your vault, get a blog ready. Think what blog is going to get the attention of my ideal client. And then we're going to go from there. All right. It's been amazing to be with you, and I will see you guys later. Bring your questions to tomorrow's live Q&A as well. Bye, guys.